that feeling of despair when thinking of the amount of new words you'll have to memorize when you start learning Portuguese? That dictionary over there is just a small sample of what you'll need for Portuguese. Obviously, you'll start small and maybe even note down every new word nicely in your notebook. Even better, you're going to group words by category. Vegetables on one side and professions on the other. Lawyers will never eat lettuce, but hey, everything will be okay. Now, perhaps you will write down 20 times each new word. That's what I had to do for English some 20 plus years ago. The thing is, that's the school way of learning vocabulary in a new language. If it works for you, great. But if you're struggling to make new words stick around in your brain for more than a couple of hours, then it's time to unschool your Portuguese. Olá, eu sou Catarina at the Language Unschool. I help you find your voice in European Portuguese by listening first, which without words is kind of impossible. I myself never say I don't know the meaning of a word in English. Instead, I say that I can't recall it. Chances are I did hear it before, I just didn't pay attention. But what does attention have to do with anything when it comes to learning new words? Isn't it all about memory drills and flashcards? Well, not exactly. You see, I recently found the official name for what I have been calling within the Language Unschool the law of attraction applied to language learning. The official name is illusion frequency. It was coined by linguist Arnold Svitsky in 2006, and it's essentially a cognitive bias where something you recently learned or noticed seems to appear everywhere. Let me give you an example. When I was little, there was a game we played in primary school which was to do this. Every time we saw a pregnant woman, a Peugeot, this is how we say the car brand in Portuguese, and a man with a beard. Don't ask me what the point of it was. I was 7 or 8. So, all of a sudden, our reality was made of pregnant women, Peugeots, and men with a beard. Of course, they were there before, but this happens because our brains unconsciously started paying more attention to those 3 particular things, making it feel more frequent than it actually was. When an unschooler asks me about the usage of a particular verb like they shad, or a random word comes up in one of our weekly sessions like peripécia, everyone present reports back saying they heard someone say they shad at the supermarket, or that they came across the word peripécia in whatever it is they were reading. What's really going on here is that your brain highlights these specific words more than before. In a way, we may call this a process of selective attention after you've become aware of it. The special thing is that if you are in an environment where this is promoted, as in a group learning the language together, the process is much richer. And it's faster too because you are less likely to ever forget the new word. Another example we had was one unschooler writing in our community that she had started hearing plu all over the place. Once I pointed out pilu u could be shortened to that in spoken Portuguese. Other unschoolers read that post and commented saying they had either noticed this already or that it was a good reminder. And I'm sure there were unschoolers who didn't even comment, but who started noticing this themselves. To my mind, this is a much more effective way to make new information stick when you're learning Portuguese. And it doesn't even apply to vocabulary alone. It works for learning grammar too. The process is actually quite simple. You learn something new, and for some reason, I'll speak more on that in a moment, you start focusing on it. In other words, your attention selects that specific information and you start noticing it everywhere. Then you actually start believing it appears more often than it actually does, which only reinforces the illusion. This is called confirmation bias. Essentially, it's as if your brain is going through a very intensive, narrow-focused phase on a word or rule, whatever, and only sees that. As a result, you want to ignore the rest of the language. You don't care about moving on to the next topic in your textbook, let's say the imperative, when you're just starting to see the past imperfect being used all the time, all around you. If you've ever had the chance of seeing a small child explore a bunch of pegs, this, mola in Portuguese, you know, what we used to hang clothes with, you would have seen how intensely they will play with what seems like a pretty mono-purpose object for an adult. And yet, they will put them in the basket, take them out of the basket, try to press one open and stick their finger on it. You get the picture. It's only when they're done exploring that they move on to the next thing that catches their attention. So my question to you is, are you paying attention? Are you at least being guided in what you should pay attention to? I'm asking this because if the process of learning Portuguese is plain, blunt, boring, you will not feel the least inclined to paying attention. Let me tell you something. I had to go through the process, well, I am still going through the process of learning Hungarian, a language that has words that resemble none of the 11 languages I already know, in order to understand how I could help my unschoolers notice new words and start seeing them everywhere. When I created Portuguese Start and had some unschoolers tested, an unschooler who's over 70 said this. Basically, she had the audacity of changing the name of the first phase of my program, Portuguese Start, to Portuguese Rich. This is a phase where my unschoolers get to train their ears to real Portuguese while acquiring their first 600 words and expressions. You can check out my free mini sample of this in the link below. The good news is, if my unschoolers can do it, so can you. Remember, you don't need a lot of vocabulary to communicate. You will slowly build it up as you go, but you do need to start somewhere. Start with silly stories, make a personal connection, and then use those new words and expressions. This last bit is crucial. You would think I knew the word for enough in Polish after having learned the language in 2007, consumed a lot of vodka with Polish people in England in 2008, and lived in Wrocław for the whole of 2009. However, it was only when biking around Amsterdam in 2011, or was it 2012, that I could clearly pay attention to the word wystarczający, wystarczy, that a Polish friend of mine said in conversation. That's when the law of attraction kicked in, and I could not only hear and understand this very basic word, but also use it myself. If you must know, I had survived in Poland saying to już already. Clumsy, but it works. But that's probably why I drank and ate too much when living in Poland and able to say that's enough, thank you. But hey, now I know. Remember to check my free mini start to be swept away by the law of attraction in Portuguese. And as we like to say in Portugal, grão a grão, enche galinha ao papo. Meaning, word by word, you will be able to express yourself more. And this is important because your voice in Portuguese matters. Obrigada por verem, obrigada por me ouvirem. Até à próxima.